Imagine this. In the deadliest conflict humanity has ever known, where empires crumbled and the fate of the free world hung by a thread, a handful of American leaders rose to command armies that turned the tide. Between 1941 and 1945, these men oversaw operations that claimed the lives of over 3.5 million enemy combatants, not just defeated or captured, eliminated from the battlefield forever. Out of more than 1,100 generals who served in the U.S. military during World War II, only 5 stand out for the sheer scale of destruction they inflicted, forcing Axis powers to rewrite their playbooks whenever these names appeared on intelligence reports. Their strategies didn't just win battles. They shattered enemy morale, saved countless American lives, and paved the way for victory. But here's the hook that might surprise you. These weren't always the generals Hollywood glamorized with dramatic speeches and heroic poses. We're talking cold, hard numbers, verified kills, tactical brilliance, and the raw efficiency of warfare that prioritized American boys coming home alive. Today, we're diving into the ranks of these 5 most devastating American generals of World War II, ranked by the enemy body counts they racked up while minimizing their own losses. Number 5 was a ghost on the battlefield, vanishing and reappearing where the enemy least expected. Number 3 led the largest assembly of American fighting men ever put under one command. Number 2, it's not the flashy name you're probably guessing. And number 1, he outdid the rest combined in sheer lethality, all while rewriting the rules of Pacific warfare. This ranking isn't based on medals, memoirs, or myths. It's grounded in declassified reports, post-war analyses, and the unforgiving math of combat. How many enemies fell for every American who stood tall? If you're ready to uncover the unsung architects of Allied triumph, and maybe rethink what you thought you knew about the war, stick around. These stories aren't just history. They're a testament to the grit that defined a generation of Americans fighting for freedom against unimaginable evil. And if this sparks that patriotic fire in you, share your thoughts below. Who do you think deserves the top spot? Let's kick off with number 5. Lieutenant General Lucian K. Truscott Jr. If you've never heard of him, you're not alone. Truscott wasn't the type to chase headlines or pose for photographers. Born in rural Texas in 1895 to a family scraping by on frontier life, he enlisted in the Army during World War I but missed the action, serving instead on the Mexican border chasing bandits. By World War II, though, he'd transformed into one of the most innovative commanders in the European theater. What set Truscott apart? Speed. Pure, unrelenting speed that turned his units into phantoms the Germans couldn't pin down. Picture this. August 1944, Operation Dragoon, the Allied invasion of southern France. High Command figured it'd take 90 grueling days to seize a region and link up with forces pushing south from Normandy. The terrain was a nightmare. Rivers, mountains, and fortified German positions manned by the battle-hardened 19th Army, some 285,000 strong. Truscott, leading 6th Corps, shattered those expectations. He did it in just 28 days. How? He invented what his men called the Truscott Trot, a forced march at 5 miles per hour with full gear, doubling the standard Army pace of 2.5 miles per hour. It sounds simple, but in practice, it was revolutionary. His infantry divisions outran German scouts, appearing on flanks before defenses could solidify. German intelligence reports from the time paint a picture of chaos. They tracked what they thought were multiple American armies slicing through their lines, but it was just Truscott's corps moving like lightning. Defensive positions sat half-built, artillery unregistered, reserves miles away when the attacks hit. In one thrust, his forces covered 400 miles in 4 weeks, a blistering advance that left the enemy reeling. The toll? The German 19th Army lost 7,000 killed outright, 22,000 wounded, and a staggering 79,000 captured. Many surrendered without a fight because Truscott had already bypassed their strongholds and cut supply lines. But here's where the emotion hits home for us Americans. Truscott's genius saved lives, our lives. His 6th Corps boasted the lowest casualty rate per mile advanced of any American unit in Europe. While other commanders slogged through attrition warfare, Truscott's men struck fast and faded, preserving the sons, brothers, and fathers who fought under him. Post-war interviews with German officers revealed a fear. When Truscott was opposite you, retreat or annihilation were your only choices. They dubbed his outfits the Geister Army, Ghost Army, for their eerie ability to evaporate from one spot and materialize 40 miles away, already hammering the next line. Truscott's path to this mastery wasn't easy. He honed his skills in North Africa and Sicily, where he turned the 3rd Infantry Division into an elite force. At Anzio in Italy, he broke out of a deadly beachhead stalemate, pushing inland against ferocious resistance. Lesser known is his humility amid the horror. On Memorial Day 1945, just after VE Day, Truscott spoke at a cemetery in Nettuno, Italy, where 20,000 Americans lay buried. Facing away from the living audience toward the graves, he apologized to the fallen. "I'm sorry I couldn't do more to bring you home." It was a raw, unscripted moment witnessed by reporters. One called it the most moving gesture he'd ever seen. Truscott, the tough Texan, understood the human cost like few others. By war's end, Truscott's commands had accounted for around 57,000 enemy killed, a number that pales next to the giant ahead but shines in efficiency. He rose to command the 5th Army, then served as a post-war occupation leader in Bavaria. He died in 1965, largely forgotten by the public, but etched in military lore. For those who studied World War II before, here's something new. Truscott's family ties to the Army ran deep. His son, Lucian III, fought in Korea and Vietnam, carrying on a legacy of quiet service. Truscott reminds us that true heroism often whispers, not shouts, and in a war that claimed so many young Americans, his methods meant more families got their loved ones back. Moving up the list to number 4, Lieutenant General James M. Jumpin' Jim Gavin. If Truscott was a ghost, Gavin was a daredevil, the only American general to parachute into combat with the first wave of his troops. Born in 1907 in New York to Irish immigrants who put him up for adoption, Gavin grew up in a coal mining town in Pennsylvania, enlisting at 17 to escape poverty. He clawed his way to West Point, graduating in 1929, and by World War II at just 36, he was a brigadier general commanding assault elements of the 82nd Airborne Division. That's right, the youngest general to lead a division in the war. Gavin's defining moment came at 1:51 a.m. on June 6, 1944, D-Day. Standing in the door of AC 47 over Normandy, armed with only a pistol, knife, and unyielding resolve, he jumped into the unknown. He landed 4 miles off target amid scattered paratroopers, but by dawn, his group had seized St. Miraglisse, the first French town liberated that day. This was an armchair generalship. Gavin led from the front, embodying the airborne ethos he pioneered: vertical envelopment, drop behind enemy lines, seize key objectives, and hold them at all costs until relieved. The 82nd was slated for relief 48 hours after D-Day. Instead, they held for 33 brutal days against 5 German divisions, securing bridges, crossroads, and towns that blocked reinforcements to the beaches. The division paid dearly. 5,245 killed, wounded, or missing, but they never yielded an inch. German counterattacks smashed against Gavin's lines, but most never reached the coast. Across 4 major jumps, Sicily, Normandy, Market Garden, and Holland, and the Bulge, Gavin's men clashed with 23 different German divisions, inflicting an estimated 23,000 casualties while suffering 15,847 of their own. A 1.5 to 1 kill ratio might not dazzle first, but remember, these were lightly armed paratroopers facing tanks and heavy artillery. Doctrine said they couldn't hold. Gavin proved it wrong time and again. What made his leadership legendary? Trust. His men knew he'd never order what he wouldn't do himself. In Sicily, he jumped with a broken leg from training, refusing evacuation. During the Bulge, he rallied freezing troops in person, sharing their hardships. Captured Germans post-war named the 82nd under Gavin as the most feared American unit, not for gear or size, but for unbreakable spirit. For U.S. audiences, Gavin's story stirs that deep pride in the underdog American who rises through sheer will, fighting for liberty while others faltered. Gavin became the youngest major general at 37, and later ambassador to France under Kennedy. He died in 1990, but his principles, lead from the front, jump first, still train today's airborne forces. If you've seen Band of Brothers, you know the 101st. But the 82 ND's tales, like Gavin's, add layers. New fact for veterans of World War II docs. Gavin was orphaned at birth, his true parents unknown, yet he built a family in the Army that saved the world. Now, number 3, General Omar Bradley. Hold on to this figure, 1 million. That's the enemy soldiers killed or captured under Bradley's 12th Army Group from June 1944 to May 1945, the highest tally for any American commander in Europe, more than Eisenhower's overall count, more than Patton's flashy campaigns. Yet Bradley remains a quiet giant, the GI's general who shunned spotlight for substance. Born in 1893 in rural Missouri, Bradley almost skipped West Point for lack of algebra prep, but aced it anyway. He missed World War I combat, teaching instead, but World War II thrust him into command. Starting as Patton's deputy in North Africa, he flipped roles by Normandy, becoming Patton's boss. Bradley's style? Methodical, like a Missouri farmer planning a harvest. No ivory pistols or custom uniforms. Just precise operations the Germans called clockwork for their predictability and inevitability. His masterpiece, Operation Cobra, the Normandy Breakout, July 25, 1944. Bradley massed 1,500 bombers on a 5-mile front, then unleashed 7 divisions. The German line shattered in 72 hours. Normandy's front collapsed in a week. Paris fell within a month. German Field Marshal Gunther von Kluge, overwhelmed, took his own life rather than face Hitler. Bradley's tempo was key. By the time enemies reacted, he was on to the next phase. In the Battle of the Bulge, Bradley spotted the German thrust in 18 hours, repositioning forces while others downplayed it. He greenlit Patton's southern counterattack, bolstering the north. By late January, the Bulge was erased, 100,000 German casualties versus 89,000 American. Crucially, U.S. losses were replaceable, Germany's weren't. Then, Bradley encircled the Ruhr pocket, netting 325,000 surrenders, the largest in German history. Resistance? Futile, thanks to his airtight planning. Bradley commanded 1.3 million men, the largest American force ever under one leader. His humility endeared him to troops. He ate with privates. Listen to gripes. For Americans, he embodies the everyday hero, from small-town roots to 5-star general, leading with competence that brought victory and honor to fallen. He died in 1981, his memoir modest. New insight, Bradley overcame personal tragedy. His first wife died young, yet channeled it into unwavering focus, saving countless lives. Bradley's legacy? He didn't terrify the enemy with aggression. He broke them with flawless execution, ensuring fewer American widows mourned. In a war that tested our nation's soul, Bradley's steady hand reminded us that quiet strength wins empires. But wait, number 2 might shock you. It's General George S. Patton, Jr., the old blood and guts himself. Yes, number 2, not the top spot many assume. Why? Patton's Third Army tallied 1.4 million enemy casualties, a staggering 9-to-1 kill ratio overall. Spectacular, yes, but at what price? His own forces endured 160,000 casualties, including 27,000 killed, the highest American losses in any European army. Effectiveness came with a heavy toll in American blood, and that's the twist that drops him here. Patton's legend is larger than life. The pearl-handled revolvers, the bombastic speeches, the relentless drive. Born in 1885 to a wealthy California family with Confederate roots, he competed in the 1912 Olympics pentathlon, placing 5th. World War I saw him pioneer U.S. tank warfare, earning wounds and glory. By World War II, he was the aggressive force Allies needed. His 7th Army swept Sicily in 1943, outpacing Montgomery. But the slapping incidents, berating shell-shocked soldiers in hospitals, nearly ended his career, sidelining him until D-Day prep. Reality versus myth, Patton terrified Germans, who called him the cowboy general. His Third Army captured 80,000 square miles in 9 months, the fastest advance ever. The Bastogne relief in the Bulge? Masterful, pivoting 90 degrees in 48 hours, a logistical miracle. After crossing the Rhine in March 1945, his troops surged 55 miles in 2 days, costing 12,000 U.S. casualties but crumbling German resistance. Yet the costs mount. In Lorraine, autumn 1944, 50,000 American losses for 40 miles, a 3-to-1 ratio, far from his norm. Why? Patton assaulted fortified lines without full prep, believing momentum trumped lives. His philosophy: a good plan violently executed now is better than a perfect plan next week. It worked, but 21 Medals of Honor from the Bulge under his command highlight the heroism and sacrifice demanded. Patton anticipated the Ardennes offensive, warning superiors, but when it hit, his response shone. For U.S. viewers, Patton evokes mixed emotions: pride in his audacity that crushed Nazis, sorrow for the boys who paid the price. Lesser known, he had a high, squeaky voice, nothing like George C. Scott's gravelly portrayal, and before fame, he heroically saved drowning children while sailing with his wife. Patton wanted Berlin. Politics stopped him. By V-Day, his tally stood at 1.4 million enemies down, but with the war's highest U.S. deaths under one command. He died December 1945 in a car crash, buried among his men in Luxembourg. Debate rages. Did victories justify the blood? 80 years on, his grave draws visitors, a symbol of American resolve tinged with tragedy. Finally, number 1, General Douglas MacArthur. Here's the ultimate twist: MacArthur, often criticized for ego and self-promotion, tops this list because the numbers don't lie. His commands killed roughly 485,000 Japanese in direct combat, captured 71,000, and through strategic isolation, led to another 250,000 dying from starvation and disease. Total: over 1 million enemy casualties, more than any American commander, with proportionally fewer U.S. losses than peers. Born 1880 in Arkansas to a military family, his father a Civil War hero who faced post-war hardships, MacArthur toured Japan as a boy in 1905, gaining early insight into his future foe. World War I saw him earn 7 Silver Stars. In World War II, after Pearl Harbor, he defended the Philippines valiantly but evacuated, vowing, "I shall return." He did in 1944, waiting ashore in Leyte. MacArthur's genius: island hopping. Instead of grinding assaults on every fortified atoll, he bypassed strongholds, seizing airfields and ports to cut supplies. Bypassed garrisons. 250,000 troops, withered uselessly, militarily irrelevant, without resupply. In New Guinea, 24,000 U.S. casualties versus 160,000 Japanese, a 6.6-to-1 ratio. In the Philippines, 62,000 American losses, 14,000 killed, against 336,000 Japanese, 267,000 killed, 5.4-to-1. Compared to Iwo Jima's near-even toll, MacArthur's way saved lives by exploiting weakness. Critics decry his glory-seeking. He awarded himself medals, staged photos. True, but beneath was brilliance. Coordinating air, sea, and ground across vast oceans, sustaining 2 million troops. He shielded Emperor Hirohito from war crimes trials, aiding Japan's reconstruction into a democratic ally. Land reforms, women's rights, the U.S.-Japan bond we know today. For Americans, MacArthur stirs profound emotion. His "Old Soldiers Never Die" speech after Truman fired him in Korea, 1951, echoed the sacrifices of World War II GIs who returned changed, building the post-war boom. New fact: he protected General Jonathan Wainwright, left behind in the Philippines, from blame, showing loyalty amid rivalry. MacArthur died 1964, his legacy, maximizing enemy suffering to minimize American pain. Brutal? Yes. Effective? Undeniably. Tally it up: Truscott, 57,000 enemy killed. Gavin, 23,000. Bradley, 1 million. Patton, 1.4 million. MacArthur, over 1 million. Grand total: around 3.5 million, more than German losses on the Eastern Front in 1943. 5 men, embodying American ingenuity and courage, proved leadership trumps numbers. They fought not for conquest, but to end tyranny, honoring the 407,000 U.S. souls lost. Did we nail the order? Should Patton edge out MacArthur? Who'd you add, Eisenhower? Comment your takes, where you're from. Our global community thrives on this. If this stirred your American spirit, remembering those who secured our freedoms, like and subscribe for more untold World War II stories. These generals weren't perfect, but they delivered victory. See you next time.